Mary, would you like to begin?
Yes, please.
Good evening. This is the meeting of the Borough of Highlands Mayor and Council regular meeting on Wednesday, September 7th, 2022. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Once the notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times and by posting at the Borough of Highlands Municipal Building and filing with the Borough Clerk all on January 1st, 2022. Items listed on the agenda are subject to change. Roll call. Councilmember Cervantes.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Melnick.
Here.
Council President Olszewski.
Here.
Mayor Brion.
Here.
We have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, we have August 17, 2022 meeting minutes for approval.
I'll offer.
I'll second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick. Council President Olszewski. Abstain, you said?
Yes.
Yep. Council President Olszewski.
Yes.
Mayor Brion.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve August 17, 2022 meeting minutes. Next, we have introduction of proposed ordinances. O2218, designating restricted parking in front of residents occupied by persons with disabilities.
I'll offer. I'll second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Council President Olszewski.
Yes.
Mayor Brion.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance O2218 on first reading, with the public hearing to be held on September 21st. Next, we have O2219, amending Section 2, Administration, Section 2-10.2, entitled Composition of the Revised General Ordinance of the Borough of Highlands.
Chief, would you like to speak to this at all?
If you want me to, sure, okay. Yes, thank you, Mayor. In conversations that I've had with Mike, what this does is allows us to anticipate retirements and to hire in advance of retirements. The way that the Police Training Commission has new rules in place and the schedule of the police academy, we have, let's say, for instance, we have one retirement coming up. If we didn't act in advance of this, we would be down a police officer for about a year. So it really, it enables us to get ahead of that.
Thank you.
That's it.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, so Chief, you're looking to just allow for the advanced hiring, but in anticipation of keeping a level of staff, or?
Yes.
Because I know it's not to exceed 10, but like, is 10 the right number, or is 11 the right number? Just wondering, like,
I'm not doing like a staffing analysis right now. I'm just getting what we have.
Got it.
We're down 2 officers right now.
Right.
And conversations with Mike, we need to keep the status quo. So this helps us do this. It allows us to do that. And just the number that we took, it was an arbitrary number, in consultation with the attorneys. That was just a number that we picked.
And that keeps us budget neutral, or is it just?
Yes. I spoke to the administrator. I spoke to the CFO. I spoke to Pat last week, and he is 100% in agreement with it. He explained to Mike and myself that he agrees with it 100%.
Right.
He supports it 100%.
Awesome. Thank you.
And with that, I'll offer.
I'll second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Council President Olszewski.
Yes.
Mayor Brion.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance O2219 on first reading, with a public hearing to be held on September 21st, 2022. Next, we have public hearings on proposed ordinance O2215, designating restricted parking in front of residents occupied by persons with disabilities.
Before you open this to the public, is there any question or comment from the table on this? No? No. Okay, then I'll open it to the public. Does anyone from the public have any comments on this handicapped spot in front of the residence? Someone who's handicapped. Okay, seeing no one come up, then I will close public comments, and I will offer this ordinance. I will second.
Councilmember Cervantes?
Yes.
Councilmember Tolet?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Chesky?
Yes.
Mayor Brianna?
Yes.
Motion carries. Ordinance O-2215 passed on second and final reading. Next, we have O-2216, amending Chapter 21, Part 4, Article 14, Section 81 of the Code of the Borough of Highlands, entitled Outdoor Storage.
Again, does anyone at the table have any questions regarding this ordinance?
I do, who goes to, who's the person designated to check to see if this is being followed?
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement, okay. And there's a grace period that these people are given, builders are given to comply, I guess in 30 days it says.
Yes.
All right, that's it.
I'll open it to the public. Does anyone from the public have anything, any questions or comments regarding this ordinance, regarding outdoor storage? If you could use the microphone.
Chris Francie, 36 Fifth Street in Highlands. What is driving this ordinance? Why do we need it? We've had outdoor storage for 80 years in town. I'm not aware that we have big issues.
It's basically just we have a lot of different areas where people are just leaving equipment, commercial vehicles, and construction sites where it's just sitting there for months on end. That's pretty much what it's for. We're giving like, if nothing has happened on the property for 30 days, we want to move.
I think that's a little draconian. I mean, there's a lot of properties that have stuff that are not, it's been there for 10 years, 15 years, stuff that they want, stuff that they don't want to get rid of. I don't understand why we're doing this.
It's specific to construction equipment. It has
Say
to
it
be,
again, please.
it's specific to construction equipment. It has to weigh more than 14,000 pounds if it's a truck. So we're not talking about pickup trucks.
You're not talking about my lawnmower.
I don't, absolutely not.
We're talking about front loaders, heavy equipment, heavy construction equipment.
Dump trucks,
So is that 14,000 pound?
40, or 14,000, yes.
14,000, that's in the ordinance.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That kind of answers my question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Lawnmowers.
I'm sorry?
I said, no, don't have to worry about your lawnmower. You're fine.
All right, seeing no other questions, I will close public portion. And I will offer this ordinance.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Cervantes?
Yes?
Councilmember Tolet?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Chesky?
Yes.
Mayor Brianna?
Yes.
Motion carries. Ordinance O-2216 passed on second and final reading. Next, we have O-2217, adding Chapter 2, Section 10.17 of the Borough Code, entitled Entry-Level Law Enforcement Officer Appointments.
Please.
What this does is allows us per state law to appoint an entry-level police officer exempt of civil service testing if they've already completed the basic course for the police officer position, for like the academy.
Any other questions from the table? No? Okay, then I'll open up to public portion. Please, sir, if you could use the microphone.
I'm here for another reason, but I do want to speak on this. I didn't even know.
May I have your name and address?
Barney Cohen, 9 Portland Road, Highlands, New Jersey. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, and I know what happens. People become law enforcement elsewhere, and they jump ship to go from town to town to town to get a better job. And I'm opposed to that. There's a reason for civil service, and they should be required to take and pass the civil service test for Highlands, New Jersey.
Well, we would do background checks on anybody, any prospective officer that came. If there was anything in the background check, I'm sure that the police would flag that.
That's not the purpose of the background check. The purpose is you're stealing officers from other towns. It creates a thing where an officer will take a job in a low-paying town just to jump ship to a higher-paying town. But for whatever reason, they'll jump around. And it's unfair to the town they were hired from, and it's sort of unfair to the town they're going for. There's a reason for state civil service, and that should be to jump ship, to manipulate the system to get a job in the town that you go for.
We're not manipulating the system. It's an actual state law that was passed, that we're passing our ordinance so we can comply with it.
Mr.
I'm
Cohen,
not gonna say anymore. I just don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's right.
Mr. Cohen, this is not for middle-level or higher-level police officers. This is for entry level,
Okay?
okay? All right. Are there any other comments regarding this ordinance? And I will close public portion. And I will offer it.
I'll second.
Councilmember Cervantes?
Yes.
Councilmember Chilak?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Woshewski?
Yes.
Mayor Briana?
Yes.
Motion carries. Ordinance 02217 passed on second and final reading. Next, we have a public hearing on the improvements of Overlook Park.
There you go. Okay, so we're here to talk about, application we're doing for Monmouth County Open Space Grant. This is, a grant that the borough has applied for several times before. We're implementing one right now, with the contractor that's on board at Snug Harbor Park. And what we want to do, with this year's, application is go for funding for Overlook Park. I think we talked about this a few times at prior council meetings. We did do a design, for Overlook Park. It wasn't in the budget this year to construct, so we're going for some grant money to help with that, next year. So the Overlook Park, as you probably remember, is located right on, Navesink Avenue, Route 36. And it's called Overlook Park because you're right, way up high, and you can overlook and see the skyline. This is our site plan that we have, our construction plan. Basically, the improvements are to install a walkway with a nice 10 to 14 foot tall pergola, and have, vegetation growing over top. There'll be a seating area towards the back, and a little retaining wall and railing, and then we're going to put up viewing machines, so you can, take a look at the skyline. There is going to be some of the scrub vegetation, is what our landscapers call it. Trees that have basically gone from weeds to trees, that will be taken out. We're not going to disturb the soil on this steep slope. All the stumps will be, kept intact, and, that will be, revegetated with some native, grasses, flowers, and things like that. The
show you a detail, a little bit more detail of the pergola structure. So here is Route 36, and you're going to be walking down towards the back of the site, and the pergola structure is going to be over top, creating a nice canopy for you. There'll be benches underneath, and it'll be a nice spot to come in and just hang out, take the kids, relax. There'll be some grassed area on the sides to just run around, and it's a very passive recreation. And this is the kind of thing that Monmouth County looks for, is creating new parks, redevelopment, and good public access. So this checks all the boxes for that grant. So this, the grant procedure is to, with the application, we have a resolution on the agenda tonight to, for the council to authorize the submission of the application and have a public participation meeting, which is what I'm here doing now. This is a maximum $250,000 matching grant. So that means if you get $250,000, you spend $250,000 to get that full amount. I think that covers basically everything I wanted to touch on. Oh, one last thing is for the front of the site, we are going to be salvaging some of the previous monuments that were on the old Highlands Bridge. We'll be installing those as kind of the entryway to the site. It's a nice little touch that's going to be incorporated. And if the council has any questions, I'll answer that, or we can open up to the public if you want.
For drainage, aren't we also regrading so the drainage goes to the street instead of going off the hill?
There, yes. That's my site plan. So right now, everything grades towards the, down the hill towards the back of the site. What we are going to do is we do have a drainage easement actually going right through the middle of the site, and we are going to be installing stormwater structures to collect all the runoff from the walkway and the grass area, so it's not spilling over down the hill. It'll be collected into drainage inlets and piped underground into the existing system.
Anyone else have a question?
I would say I love it. I love to walk, so that gives me a go all the way around and got nothing left. It's just a place to sit, and I like the idea that you have.
Yes, we have regular and ADA accessible units.
The open space committee has been talking about this for the better part of the year, very much on board with this, and it's very nice to walkable park, as you mentioned, very nice for being in the middle of town, so halfway between uphill and downtown and stuff, and it's kind of pretty similar, so those are the needs, so it's awesome.
You too?
All right, we'll open up if the public has any questions regarding this creation of the park.
Here is 36. This is the going down the hill, looking this way towards the skyline. This is the walkway, center walkway here. This is where the pergola structure is going to be, and then these are all benches in the seating area, and this is all open grass on the sides. And the monuments from the bridge are right at the entrance there. Yes.
Hi, Tina Cameron, we're living average. Can I say please that it's handicap accessible?
Yes, the walkway is graded at a handicap accessible slope. There's a nice flat area here at the end. There's going to be a wheel retaining wall with a railing for safety, and this is all ADA acceptable compliant.
Go ahead.
Up to get up there.
It's preferable only because it makes Nancy's job easier.
You'll feel it.
The Environmental Committee has been pushing this for many years. Peter Mullen had a completely, has, sketched it out, and it was attractive, and I'm glad to move ahead. But Peter had a circular section in the middle of the walkway, all right, that lent some interest, all right? It had a pergola, and at the outlet from this circular section, all right, went to the path like this does. In my opinion, this looks very bland. It's straight.
You're talking about at the end here?
No, in the middle.
In the middle, okay.
In the middle, with a pergola, and I think we had benches there, but I don't know. To me, this looks bland. It's straight. It's geometrical. I mean, I don't think there's any interest in looking at it, per se. It's a harsh thing to say. I'm glad we're doing something, all right, but I just wish it was more interesting to look at. And I don't know whether if it's open to, discussion.
It certainly is, that's why we're having this conversation.
Have you seen what,
Nothing's been built yet, so
have you seen what, Mr. Mullen drew up?
I don't know if I saw the circular portion, but I know we did get the plans of the pergola itself from him.
Okay. I'll make sure you get the plans. Just so that you can see. I'm glad we're doing it, but I wish it was prettier. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else with a comment? So you're looking for softer features? Yeah?
More interesting.
More interesting?
Yeah, a curve somewhere.
That can certainly be done. Yes, definitely. Seeing no other comments, I'll close public portion. Think you can accommodate, Mr. Francie? Okay. Yes, definitely.
Next, we have consent agenda. Mayor, would you like me to read the resolutions by title? R-22-198, requesting approval of the insertion of $20,049.03 to the 2022 budget revenue available from the Municipal Alliance Program grant. R-22-199, authorizing refund of tax overpayments. R-22-200, governing body certification of the annual audit. R-22-201, authorizing the preparation and submittal of the Municipal Open Space Grant Program for fiscal year 2023. R-22-202, approval to submit a grant application on and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the improvements of Marine Place East and Snug Harbor parking lot projects. R-22-203, authorizing execution of discharge of mortgage for 20 Shrewsbury Avenue. R-22-204, authorizing execution of an agreement for snow removal and street lighting reimbursement between the Borough of Highlands and East Manor Square Condominium Association. R-22-205, authorizing execution of Clean Energy Community Energy Grant Agreement between the State of New Jersey Board of Public Utilities and the Borough of Highlands. R-22-206, authorizing payment of bills. R-22-207, authorizing the award of a non-fair and open contract for the professional engineering services regarding Monmouth Hills, Snug Harbor Combined Stormwater Mitigation Permit Plans. R-22-208, authorizing the award of a non-fair and open contract for professional engineering services regarding CDBG Marine Place Park Walkway West Final Design and Construction Phase Services. R-22-209, authorizing the award of a contract for extraordinary unspecifiable services grant consulting services for obtaining FEMA funding. R-22-210, awarding a fair and open contract for the CDBG Marine Place Walkway West project.
Before we continue, I'd just like Mr. Ball to please explain the discharge of the mortgage for 80 Shrewsbury.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's for resolution 2203. This addresses a mortgage, old mortgage that was filed back in 2000. The terms of the mortgage, it was for $14,999. Terms of the mortgage provide that if there were no property maintenance issues on the property for, I believe it was, yes, a 5-year period, which expired in 2004, that the mortgage would be forgiven. So we reviewed the file, our code enforcement officer did confirm that there were no code enforcement issues during that period. So it's just something that has been pending in the county records. No formal discharge of mortgage was filed in that time. Frankly, should have been, but now we're just taking that step to formally clear the county records of that mortgage.
I will offer the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Clock.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Council President Oshesky.
Yes.
Mayor Brian.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt Resolution R22-198 through R22-210. Next, we have other business, trap neuter return and licensing of animals in Highlands.
Before we get started, we have our guests here today, Scott and Corinne from Monmouth County SPCA. I don't know if you guys would like to begin. If you'd rather I begin.
Either one of you can be.
Hi, everybody. I think since the start of the year, we've had about 30 cats and kittens that have come in. I'm sure for a lot of you, it's probably not as many as you'd like, but we are present and trying. I know with Chief Burton, trying to get some cats over at the police department. We are very much so aware of the issues on Water Witch, also with Shadow Lawn. Everyone is obviously welcome. Everyone is welcome to always call the TNR line. I have cards with me that people can also call me directly if you're having issues at your homes as well. So,
Thank you. We've been running the program since 2016. Of course, 2020 and 2021 were not very good years for TNR just because of COVID. Our total numbers so far, and including what we've done so far in 2022, is we've adopted over 100 cats that have been trapped. 15 were either diseased or had to be euthanized, and 157 were released for a program total so far 272 trapped cats. So we're trying, now that COVID seems to be in our rearview mirror, we are going to be able to step it up some more. It's also more helpful that the SPCA now does both our animal control as well as the control of the cats, so we don't have to shuffle between two different partners. And if you're interested in the program, we have sign-up sheets here. And that will bring, does anyone have any questions? That brings us over to licensing, which, question? I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Allison. I live on 59 Washington. When it comes to the cats, how can we differentiate between cats that have been caught and released versus cats that have not?
So the cats that have been run through the program, even though it's been not 100 years, you know, if they haven't been run through the program, that's a theoretical job.
Okay.
You know, residents, you know, recreate the standard practice for
Okay. And the cat,
that means there's space. It really, you know, depending on
there's a cat looking on our house, but she doesn't have ears. I'm like, will you can keep it or that? Second question, when it comes to like signing up for the program, like what are the expectations if you do like fill out one of those forms? Are you trapping the cats? Are you just like stalking the cats? What are you doing? I mean, I would work with you directly. I mean, there are a lot of situations, I do my best to be able to come out and put traps out for residents.
Okay.
But it is difficult, the more volunteers that I have, and my days are spent getting into the cats in for surgery, so I try to look at people to the best of their ability, depending on their work schedules, when I have to get there for surgeries. I'm happy to either come out, or if they're using it at home, I can show you the trap, I'll come and pick the cat up as soon as we get it in the trap. So obviously everyone's situations are different, their schedules are different, you know, I can't get cats in 7 days a week. There's only certain days that we can get them in for surgery, but I'm happy to work with you in whatever capacity.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And that'll bring us over to licensing. If you have a dog or a cat, they need to be licensed. It's a fairly inexpensive fee. I believe it's $18 for an altered animal, and it's 21. These are set by the state. These costs 21 for an unaltered animal, and part of the reason why we require a license is to make sure that your animals are having their rabies shots, and they're going and having regular vet visits. The last thing anybody wants is to get bitten by a dog or a cat and then get sick. So we'll be stepping up our efforts to get more people. I know, again, with COVID, a lot of people weren't going out, they weren't taking their animals to the vets, they weren't doing a lot of things, but we need to get back into making sure that everyone's licensed and it's safe out there for everyone. Are there any questions regarding licensing?
Just a quick aside, the local vets in town have a policy. They're not handling your cat or dog for grooming or doing nails or any of these cosmetic things unless you've been, have shots up to date. They'll just turn you away at the door. So,
That's good.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're pitching in completely.
Very good. Very good to know. Yes, sir.
Does this apply to indoor cats that don't go outside?
It does. Because a cat can always get out, and you don't want your cat to get bitten by something and then bring that home to you. So it's just it's a public safety measure. Any other questions? And we can move on to fire department. Room 17. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, Mayor, Council, Administrator. My name is Bill Kane. I am the Emergency Management Coordinator for Pearl Highlands. I'm also the Deputy Fire Chief. We've been working, this subject now is about our fire boat. Right now, we are out of the water due to mechanical failure. This is a new venture we took on. This boat that broke down is a new venture we took on this past year. And it's a co-op program, with the New Jersey State Forest Fire Service. Basically, they provide you a boat, you get it up and running, you maintain it, and you go from there. And it's essentially your boat, but it still technically belongs to the Forest Fire Service. So while it was en route to a call on July 15th, the boat had broken down. We weren't unable to get the family that was swept out to the bay. They were recovered, safe, everyone was good. The next day we had a marine mechanic on board to check out the issue. They had another problem out there, 66-foot boat ran aground, 2 people injured, we couldn't get them. Another boat had to go and go get them. what we're looking to do is kind of either repower the boat we have now, or all out replacement of a new boat. Right now, the Forest Fire Service boat that we operate is 22 years old. Getting a direct replacement engine for it doesn't really exist. Getting a new replacement engine for it does exist at a cost of about $7,000. Is it worth it to put it in a boat that's not 100% the borough's? They would never ask for it back, we know that, but it's still not 100% ours. Or do we look into an all-out replacement of the vessel? In those packets, you have just a couple emails back and forth, some updates. Mike, you have everything tenfold already. And a couple of the estimates for the new engine and the estimates for what a new boat would cost in the ballpark. The one we were looking at that's in there, a new boat would probably cost about $170,000. And it would be specific for the borough plan. It would 100% our boat, and it'd be here for the next 20 years. So, I'm not sure we need help on it. We have so many calls on this river, and we probably would have had 4 more this weekend, but we're out of service. See Bryce and Helen Econo for handling for us now. As far as the program, Dave Parker knows the ins and outs of the program. He can kind of go over to you what we have now. So good evening, everybody. I'm Dave Parker. I'm the apparatus chairman committee for the fire department, also the fire marshal. The state program started probably 20, 25 years ago. We entered into the state program. A lot of our emergency management equipment that you have now is from that program. That program gives that equipment out. Basically, they do a contract with you. There's a couple of different ways that you could do it. There's different programs that were available. We did the complete donation program with some of our equipment that we have. The only 2 programs that are left that you have to do a shared program with is the New Jersey Forest Fire Service, where they would supply you the equipment and you would agree to respond to any calls or do anything that the forest fire would need you to do with the equipment as part of a condition of the agreement of the contract. The second one is actually under law enforcement, which is anything that's military equipment, weapons, anything of that nature, would also be a shared program because that would guarantee if those weapons, those pieces of equipment will go back to the military or another police department in there. So the program's been around for a while, it's been established pretty well. Like I said, we have a lot of equipment that's in that program now. That's solely Highlands owns it now, once they're in the program. This particular piece doesn't operate that way. It's just a little bit different than the other program in there. So far, it's been very successful. Most of the townships that are in the forest fire program for wildland equipment, boats, and some things of that nature, they tend to use the program for years. It works out pretty well. In the event we had to give back the equipment, we could take our whatever we put on there, our fire pump, or motor, or whatever we use on there, and that still belongs to the borough of Highland. So that's basically how the program runs. It's yours for life. When we signed the contract here, we did this, and with that we just agreed under a mutual aid, or hey, yeah, we're here for you. We'll go out if you need us to, and we'll assist you. But as long as we keep that program, that boat or that equipment in the possession of the borough of Highland. So.
Are you aware of any specific grants that cover this sort of purchase?
So I'm aware of the Port Authority grant. There is a grant through the Port Authority. We did apply for that for several years. Very difficult to get funding out of that. We've applied through AFG, which actually our ladder truck that we have now. We received $700,000 towards the purchase of that ladder truck we'll get for that program. But the Port Authority program is pretty strict. It seems to work well with a lot of career departments, bigger city departments, along those lines, or county-wide, agencies. when it does. So we did, try to pursue that. We've been continuously, every year, we try to put in, through that program and try to do that through the Port Authority. That is the only one I'm aware of under, for marine assets. There are a few, state grants, localized, I think, through, DEP. But those were kind of smaller ones that they'll help you along with the piece, if you need something, usually a $3,000 to $5,000, somewhere in there, some component, of that, type of thing. So we've been, actually, since 2006, when the inception of the Marine, division, per se, in the fire department, we answer, between 40 and 50 calls a year, and a lot of these, the vessel that we had before this vessel, served us well. That was a used, vessel that we got through Rumson, First Aid Squad. They had a dive team that, that ended, and we ended up purchasing, the fire department purchased that vessel, from Rumson, at a cost of like $6,500 at the time, back in 2006. So we took on the program, we see an need for it, we answer between 40 and 50 calls a year, like I said. It has saved lives, out there, we've been out there, we do probably 85 to 90% of its rescue, and then the other small portion of its fire, when it comes to that. But, it's definitely an asset to have to protect your waterfront when you're here. We use it in different ways in some of the marinas to be able to maneuver and get that boat inside some of our marinas with 400 or 500 foot docks that are out there on the end. So we kind of use that to get it in there, be able to run a hose line through it, and, use the fire pump on board and that type of thing. It works out pretty well for us. And then, pretty much it.
Is there a minimum spec that you need?
Or is that in here?
Well, one of the specs is in there.
So the range is like,
The
167 to 322.
Those are two different boats. Totally agree.
I'm just wondering, like, is there like?
It's just, there's only a few manufacturers out there.
Yeah.
Just like anything else.
Yeah.
And, we've talked to most of them, still waiting on a few more quotes to come back.
Okay, so there could be another price.
For that style boat,
Yeah.
the 167 that was about the cheapest that you're gonna find, that has everything kind of tailored to what we would require to go into.
And that's what I mean, like, there's a minimum set of requirements that you have to have in order for it to be serviceable.
Yes, maneuverable ability is a big one. Can't get too big, in the 25, 26 foot range seems to be about right for us.
Well, you can't throw those over the act out there.
Yeah, we can't do that, we can't go with a 32, 35 foot, we just can't get into the marine, so it kind of serves our purpose to keep it small and simple.
Right.
Seems to be. And where that second boat where it's really high, that company puts 300 horsepower motors on, we don't do that. We need 150 horsepower motor. Yeah, it's 1,250 gallon and a fire pump on, that's a little overkill for what we're looking to do, and we can do it with a 500 gallon. And some of the bigger cities would go for that one.
Sure.
It's just not us. It's not tailored to what we need to, what we need to get into. We need something that drafts about 2 feet of water and can handle the bed. That's pretty much what we're looking for.
Well, 7 comes out of the water, are we incurring any kind of cost for storage?
No. Twin Line Marine is very good to us. He donates a slip to us. We ran, the motor work through him. He painted the new boat for us, or the one we got from Forest Fire Service as a donation. He is top notch to us. He doesn't really care. He's just here for that.
All right.
Also in that package, on the back page, that is the apparatus plan for the whole borough, for the, fire department. So it gives you the ages of all the trucks, whatever, the suggested replacements, just so everyone has a copy of that. And we'll send a new copy out, come January, we send it out every year, just to refresh everybody's mind.
Was the forest fire program donation a one-off? And that was just a happenstance, or?
No, other towns have entered into, Red Bank has a boat from it. We actually were able to get the boat early last year, but due to COVID, we couldn't get the paperwork. So they were in the same boat. They couldn't get it, literally. They couldn't get anything done, and they still don't have all the paperwork in there. That boat is still not in the water. They have put a new motor. They put a new motor and everything in there, too. But they decided to do it that way. Which, like you said, we can do it that way as well. It's just how much do you want to spend on something that's really not ours, or do you want to make something ours? But we're
I
just
think we
gonna,
need to get this scanned,
we're gonna need,
and we need to sit down with the CFO and Mike and the grant writer and see what we can come up with.
We have filed a, insurance claim, we just haven't heard back yet from our insurance.
yeah, we're still waiting for the other, give us a call back. They sent us an email saying we're coming, but they just haven't given us a date for contact. And as soon as we do that, we'll let you know.
Mr. Francis has a question. Don't you want to wait till public portion?
I just thought it was on the subject, that's all.
Okay, that's all right,
Have you explored working with CETO? They have boats on the water 24/7. They may not have exact training, but I'm thinking that they could get deputized, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, training nowadays is went through the roof, with certain criteria that we're allowed to do by the state, federal levels. It's really hopping on someone else's boat is kind of out of play anymore. Years ago, maybe, but not now.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next up, mayor's report.
Yes. Construction updates is, North Street pump, the elevated shed is completed, and we're still waiting for that breaker panel to finish the electric. Well, a new electric line will get dropped in. I'm sure everyone's noticed that the municipal building, we are, moving at a great pace. Our concrete slabs have been poured, underground, conduits have been placed. And the installation for the, block for the elevator side port is continuing. South Bay and Hillside, work started in late August, and we're hoping to be, substantially complete October, November, as weather allows. All of these projects are as weather allows. Large sanitary sewer, phase 1, work started on 8/16, they're still doing the test bits. That's been delayed for a number of reasons, and, also not just, staff, but materials. These are things that are out of our control. Updated Emily Park, there was a pre-construction meeting on August 15th, and work on that should start in the fall, September, October time. Snug Harbor Park upgrades, and that includes the playground area, basketball and tennis courts, and that work is supposed to start very soon. Within the next couple of weeks. For the remainder of 22, the water pump station, we're still going back and forth with FEMA, but work is supposed to start in September. The prefab structure is due here in town in October. We're hoping that still happens. For the skate park, construction drawings were submitted to CACO, and we are just waiting for their okay to proceed. This side of Jones Creek, that's outside of the concrete, by VFW, we are working on a county to try to get that done, to get it, dredged. We just approved, the Marine Place elevated walkway, we just approved the construction for that. The opening was, September 1. For the 171 Bay Avenue charging station, we are still waiting for the BPU contract. I don't know what you're waiting for, but we're waiting. Same thing for the Portland guardrail. The county is told us they were going to repair it, and we're still waiting for that to happen. For updates to Frank Hall Park, we are working on the Open Space Lions Club Green Team. They're all looking for grants. Update to Vets Park, planned with engineering. That's another thing that we just couldn't afford to fund them this year, but we're looking to do it next year. Overlook Park, we just did our presentation for that. So hopefully we will get that grant and we could, start moving ahead. And then Marine Place elevated walkway on the Cedric side, CME is looking for grants for that. For regionalization update, the funding formula was agreed to by all the towns, by 8/19. For the cost sharing agreement, negotiations broke down on August 25th, when the Boards of Ed canceled their joint meeting, just ahead of the start time at 6 p.m. Just for everyone's knowledge, Atlantic Highlands has 154 more students and over $183 million of equalized value that's higher than Islands. And this is why the cost sharing agreement could not be 50-50. I've got some minute markers in here, so if you want to go onto the borough website and go on to the reports page, you can see where in 5 different spots, the board's own experts continually say that they have nothing to do with the cost share, it's the municipalities, but the board superintendent and according to the board's lawyers, Highlands board members of both schools are insisting on a 50-50 cost share in perpetuity, which is lawyer speak for forever, and this is the kicker, that Highlands and Atlantic Highlands would only be able to get out of the agreement if both Highlands and Atlantic Highlands Council approved it, and they will not entertain any other option. It's not acceptable to them. So therefore, this question will most likely not be on the ballot in November, and we don't know when it will be. We continue to try to negotiate, but it's hard when we are trying to say, well, we weren't open to cost sharing, but okay, we'll talk about it, let's negotiate, and for it to be a unilateral, it's my way or the highway, and you have to take the deal, I'm not signing that. That would be like renaming Highlands Seabright, because they're in a deal they can't get out of. And I will not allow that to happen here. So that's my regionalization update. On for better news is we are up to over $770,000 in grants awarded this year. I believe the administrator mentioned this at last meeting, but it bears saying again that we received a grant upgrade of AA from Standard & Poor's. One of the resolutions that we talked about tonight was the Community Energy Planning Grant. That came from the Board of Public Utilities, and we received that on August 30th, and that is what the paperwork receives. And that's for $10,000 for planning, utility planning. A really great thing that I didn't think we were going to get, but we got some, and that is the REPI, the Department of Defense grant, in conjunction with the folks at Earl and County. And we got just a little bit under $220,000 for the Veterans Park to rebuild the bulkhead there and to do a living shorelines project. Seagrass, as you know, Veterans Park is always very low, even at high tide, it's not very high, so it's a good project for resiliency. It's a really big feather in our caps to get a project that is that prestigious. One other thing of note is we met with New Jersey DEP on August 29th to see if we could roll in mitigating the problems of Monmouth Hills and roll it into our Snug Harbor project. And they not only said yes, they thought it was a great idea, and it's another way we could piggyback multiple communities onto one application, which is always seen more favorable by DEP and FEMA. So we are now all working in conjunction with that, and that is my report. Does anyone have any questions on anything before we go to public? Okay, I'll open it to the public.
Individuals wishing to address the council may be recognized by the presiding officer and shall give their name, address, and the group, if any, they represent. Although the council encourages public participation and reserves the right through its presiding officer to terminate remarks to and/or by any individual not in keeping with the conduct of a proper and efficient meeting. If any individual refuses to conduct themselves in a proper manner, they will be removed from the meeting. The council will not, during the public portion of the meeting, discuss matters involving employment, appointment, termination of employment, negotiations, terms and conditions of employment, evaluation of the performance of, promotion, or discipline of any specific or prospective or current employee. There is a 3-minute time limit for your comments.
Mr. Cohen?
9 Portland Road, Highlands, New Jersey. I don't know if I can ask the question here, but the resolution for the snow removal for East Manor Square, is that forever, or do you have to reapply for that every 2 years?
Renewal.
Every 2 years? And can I email the snow? I don't know how the reimbursement works. Whatever we get unless we don't think it's right, and we have a lawyer just like you have a lawyer. Although I don't think it's going to go to that. We're happy for anything we get. But can I send you the bills by email, just like I communicated by email?
You can email me.
Thank you.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Jim Kovic, artist, 3 Woodland Street, Highlands. I'm here to try to open up a discussion about the unfinished mural. I was awarded the grant in 2015, so it has been sitting for 7 years unfinished. It's open for discussion. You can ask me any questions you want about the mural and why it's at the stage it's at.
Was this grant through a contract with the Highlands Business?
It was a contest by the Highlands HBP. Several artists submitted their work. I submitted vintage postcards, and I was selected. I was awarded. And then changes were made immediately, the minute I signed the contract. And the changes went from vintage postcards, which is what I submitted, to all new scenes of Highlands. Beaches, restaurants, C Street Ferry. Now, that puts a person in my profession back to the drawing board. And I discussed that with them, that if they were able to provide me with the type of photography that they wanted, I would be willing to go and do it. Or else I have to go back to the drawing board and reinvent what I submitted. They provided nothing. And when it came to the writing on the postcards, it was supposed to involve the Clan Festival and other events in Highlands. And once again, I didn't receive any documentations or any letters whatsoever from the HPP to put on the mural, to write on the postcards, on the backsides. So I went on my own and went to the Highlands history book, printed a poem by school teacher Ed McNeil, and also a song by Irving Berlin, dedicated to Gertrude Ederle. So it wasn't exactly what the HPP was looking for. The HPP purposely put on the brakes on this mural. I personally feel that they went out of their way to jam this mural up. Now, the big problem with the mural is the centerpiece. The centerpiece has a huge crack that runs from the top of the wall to the bottom. I have dealt with this before in my profession. Seabright mural, Long Branch mural, required me to go in there and do masonry repair work. Using a grinding wheel, Bondo, it's 2 or 3 days worth of labor, and it's hard work on a ladder. And none of these murals have ever come back with any kind of disrepair. Once it was repaired, it never came back. Now, I discussed this years ago about the mural, and that's why the center panel is not finished. The center panel, the paint lifted off it 3 years ago. I made an attempt to try to repair it, and I was stopped. So now it sits there for 7 years, an unfinished mural. You know, without getting into anything, who did this and who did that, I just want to finish this mural. Now, I've painted murals in Highlands for over 40 years. American Legion, Lusty Lobster, Scientific Lab, you know, all for dimes and nickels, just to try to bring some kind of, you know, representation to Highlands. And then once this mural was ceased and dismissed, I don't know what to do. I walk past that mural every day, unfinished. And the powers that be, I personally feel that they went out of their way to crush my small potato of what I made a niche in art. I never had a problem in Seabright, never had a problem in Long Branch, but here in my hometown, oh no, I have problems. In 7 years, it sits unfinished. So really, what I really want to say is, what about the people of Highlands? Why are they neglected of a mural that should have been finished years ago? There's no place to go to show your town pride posed in front of Seabright mural. Gets hundreds of people in front of that poster. They use it for postcards, they use it for Christmas cards, greeting cards, birthday cards. I never put a copyright on it. I let it go. It's public art. So why is this public art piece so dead in the water? Why is there no way to negotiate with the HPV or you, Mayor? Because I've discussed this with you.
Sure.
Now, that grant money for that mural.
Mr. Corbett, you have to just wait. This is a private contract between yourself and a private corporation that has nothing to do with this governing body. That's signed a contract with the Highlands Business Partnership.
That's a Highlands wall, Mayor.
They're not a government entity.
That's borough property.
It is borough property.
So Shrewsbury has some say in that? I mean, it was grant money handed over to the HPP. It was streetscape money. It wasn't even their money to begin with. They were allocating $6,000 for a mural. I submitted ideas amongst 8 or 10 other artists.
I remember one.
And by the way, the HPP doesn't even have that artwork anymore. They never returned it to me.
I've only been here for about a year and a half, but I'd be more than happy to try and talk to them for you and try and maybe see what I can do to move forward if that's what you have to do.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what to say. You're running out of time with the climate for mural painting. Or else it's going to sit there again for a whole winter.
So then let the administrator make an effort to solve this problem.
No, let's discuss price about getting on and finishing this mural. We can't discuss that right now? Doesn't, no.
This with who?
With the council, the Highlands is going to have to come up with some sort of money, or how else am I
We're not going to discuss a price with you this evening at all. That's not going to happen. So I would suggest that you allow the administrator to do exactly what the mayor had said. That's what we can offer. That's what's going to happen.
And your offer is?
I'll talk to them, I'll see what I can do about moving forward, with this.
And if you get, if you get your contact information with the administrator, he can help you solve this problem.
But that-
What you're doing with us tonight is not.
I'm not arguing. What I'm trying to make the point here is that it won't be successful. The HBP is not going to fund it. Never. It won't happen. Now, I even discussed a certain type of ideas about how to raise money to finish this mural. And nobody gives me a feedback on it. And it's not going to come from the HPP. The HPP is not going to.
And like I said, this is not the place to discuss it. You can discuss it with Mr. Michello tomorrow. Just give him your contact information or set up an appointment.
So how do you feel about the fact that this mural has sat there for 7 years unfinished, Mayor?
Again, you have a contract with a private entity. I am not going to.
The HPP, you mean the HPP is a private entity?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So has the right hand doesn't talk to the left hand?
We're done now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Have a card, please. Go ahead.
Okay. And it's up to town to fix the wall. property needs to be taken care of by the owner. You need to fix the crack. That's not up to the HDP.
Jim, I've been more than generous with your time here tonight.
I just spent an hour and a half sitting here waiting to speak, so I think I have a right to speak to you. And in other words, too, and another subject, you're painting over an NTP grant mural on
I'm not
the old
thinking
sand
anything.
dollar.
I'm not thinking anything. A private individual who bought a piece of property can paint anything they want.
Now, it's up to the property owner to maintain the mural. Talk to your attorney, do your research about that. State murals are protected, and so are mosaics. Now, if you want to rewrite the ordinance like you normally do, it's a little too late for that, because I brought it to the attention of this council. That murals do stand protected by state law. Thank you.
Chris Francie, 36 Fifth Street again. This is September 7th. 1 year anniversary of the Collier report. The Collier report that had 4 recommendations, all right? Snug Harbor pump, forget the other 2, but the third one was the,
One Street Pump, Marine Place Bulkhead, Veterans Park, Living Shoreline, and Snug Harbor Pump.
and I haven't heard word one on the Snug Harbor pump, nor, I'm not aware of what our plans are relative to the Army Corps, project. Malone is telling the world that, there's 120 million that he's gotten to, help Highlands be part of that project. And he seems to even be suggesting that they're moving ahead with a design that seems to be implying that Highlands has joined on. All right, two questions. One about the Snug Harbor pump. All right, but more importantly, on the Army Corps, have we gotten back to them and signed on to the project?
No, we've not.
We're not. We're still the only municipality on the Bay Shore that hasn't joined the Army Corps project. Makes us look bad, all right? But I'm really more concerned with the Snug Harbor pump station.
Okay, when I spoke about Monmouth Hills, did you hear me when I said that we were putting the Snug Harbor Pump and Monmouth Hills together into one project?
I actually didn't hear the Snug Harbor pump, all right?
Okay.
The Monmouth Hills project, all right, is water that comes down.
That has to be handled by that pump.
That has to be handled by that pump.
And DEP has said themselves, they're our local partner, not Army Corps, not FEMA. And they have said, Army Corps, you won't be seeing anything from Army Corps for at least 10 years.
Okay,
But they said, don't stop doing your projects. They love the idea of taking the Monmouth Hill issue and the Snug Harbor issue, putting that together, because it would be solving an upland problem that has a detrimental effect downland, and then using the pump to evacuate all of that water.
okay. I disagree with the Army Corps in 8 to 10 years. It may take that project that long,
I'm telling you what the DEP told us.
but we haven't even signed on, Mayor.
And if you recall, this was supposed to go to a ballot measure, if it ever happens.
I think you're confusing things. At this point, yes, there was gonna be a ballot,
Sure.
but then why haven't we done the ballot?
Because it all just happened in this last couple of months.
No, I'm sorry, the Army Corps at this point we're 7 years. I don't know when it was the last meeting. I mean, that was probably at least 5 years ago, was the last meeting in the high school.
Right. And at that meeting, it was said that there would be a ballot measure if the study wasn't even finished 7 years ago. It wasn't funded 7 years ago.
Okay, but we haven't, in order to get started, you have to take the first step forward.
Sure.
All right, and I'm concerned that we're not moving on flood control. The big picture. And it's something that you committed to way back when. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Michael Cannon, 10 Central Ave. I wanted to talk about the Snug Harbor project also. Resolution 207. I'm wondering, has there been a revised plan that was put together from the plan that was last September? Because I know at the time I had a lot of concerns about the way that pump station was laid out, that they were going to cut off all the drainage to Jones Creek, directed to the pump station, pump high and low flows rather than like gravity work. And so has that concept, because I see there's, 116,000 for design and permitting in that resolution. It seems like there should be a better concept at this point. And, just wondering the status of that. And then to follow up on what Chris was saying about the Army Corps plan, they were allocated back in March or April, somewhere around there, $2 million, no cost share for design, no cost share from anyone, flat out federal money. And I thought it was closer to $140 million for construction. That is budgeted, sitting there, waiting to be spent. And I believe their plan for the Jones Creek drainage was to use a gravity pressure line to pick up the water coming down from Monmouth Hills into a gravity pressure line and push it out rather than try to pump every drop of water and pay the power cost. Let gravity do the work for you. And that is money that, that's what they would pay for. Highlands would be, potentially required to pay about 10 cents on the dollar, 8 cents on the dollar, something of that nature. So there's two questions here. One is the status of the, whether the plans for that pump station have been refined to something more workable.
That's what the resolution is for the design.
Okay, that's
To design it.
all right.
There are certain things that FEMA and DEP will not allow us to do. In regards to where the pump station is. So that was part of that meeting of DEP telling us what we can and cannot do with the design of the Snug Harbor pump.
Okay.
Because they are our local partner. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here. The dollars seem to change a lot. First it was 128, then it was 130 and change, and then the whole project is let's just call it $200 million. And we have to pay a cost of that. That's nearly $1 million a year. Now, our budget is just around $8 million, 8 and change, and we have to figure out where we're getting an extra $1 million a year.
Now you're talking the Army Corps?
Yes, I am. I just remembered that. So that's what I'm saying, there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of money, there's some uncertainty, and then there's time. And there's a lot of things that we shouldn't be waiting for. We should try to fix as much as we can ourselves, but use Army Corps parameters. Say if you're making the bulkhead at Veterans Park, they, meaning DEP, would like to see that at the height of 14 NAV 88. So they want us to take into consideration any projects that we do to use those measurements.
There's a couple of things that come to mind. One is if the town were to put up the project as it is, I don't think it's buildable the way it is. I think it would need significant changes. And that what I really think is needed is an aggressive outreach program, neighborhood by neighborhood, to determine what is buildable and acceptable, and to be able to put an alternative plan on the ballot rather than a straight up and down vote. And two, one of the things that should be done is to reach out, if there's money being spent that could be part of that plan, to get that, reach out and have that discussion of whether it can be credited as a local share to the plan as an advanced construction. That is something that could be incorporated as the local contribution to the plan. And I also suspect the state is looking at a regional maintenance authority for all these Bay Shore projects. I heard some discussion of that. I'm not privy to the details, but I just, I do track money for big engineering and construction projects, so I know where the money's going. So it's, there's a lot of money sitting in the budget. Most of it came through the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, so it's not forgiven of the cost sharing. Some of it came through the IDA supplemental bill, and all the cost sharing is forgiven on that one. So there's a mix of funds, some requiring cost share, some not right now. But the other thing is I'd like to make sure that we kept informed of the thoughts and decisions for the Snug Harbor pump station. Because right now, I don't think the concept that was put forward a year ago, to me is not at all workable. So I'll be happy for a discussion on the details of that design.
Sure. Any other comments? On closed public portion?
Next we have executive session. Executive session will be held following the regular council meeting. Prior to each executive session, the Borough Council will convene an open session at which time a resolution will be adopted in accordance with NJSA 10:4-13. No formal action will be taken during executive session. Be it resolved that the following portion of this meeting shall not be open to the public. Be it further resolved that private consideration is deemed required and is permitted because of the following noted exceptions set forth in the Act. Collective bargaining, CWA, contract, attorney-client privilege, 124 Bay Avenue, lot 10, block 47. Be it further resolved that it's anticipated that the matters to be considered in private may be disclosed to the public at a later date when the need for privacy no longer exists. Motion?
Jimmy, we're going into...
Motion? Second? Second? Councilmember Cervantes?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick? Council President Chesky?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes, Carol.
Mayor Brion? Motion carries to enter executive session at 8:19.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Second?
I say, yes.
All in favor?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned at 8:35. Thank you, everyone.
I did not.